Walk back. Stop, stop. A Texas driver with his foot glued to the gas pedal sends police on a high-speed chase with speeds way into the triple digits. Then suddenly, the night erupts with a violent boom. Deputies scramble to stop the runaway driver as the situation spirals out of control. Once officers finally pull the driver over, the real twist begins. It isn't just anybody behind the wheel. It is a famous Texas face. Officers step forward stunned, and one deputy says, "You are an idol to a lot of people, and you out here doing that stupid stuff?" The driver responds in confusion, asking, "What do you mean? Why?" In December of 2023, deputies in Houston, Texas, spot a vehicle blasting through a red light. When officers attempt to pull him over, the driver slams the accelerator and the chase begins. The pursuit rages across the dark roads until the speeding vehicle loses control, crashes, and flips over completely. Shockingly, the driver crawls out without a single scratch. As deputies get closer, rap fans recognize him immediately. It is Albert Walker Montine, better known as Swalta. Officers demand to know if anyone else is in the vehicle. The driver answers no. Deputies search the car while keeping guns drawn, ready for anything. Seconds pass with intense silence until an officer calls out, "Clear 40." Another voice follows, "We are clear, no more outstanding." Dispatch asks if there is anyone else involved or if it is just that one. The final response comes in, "Charles 30, they are clearing the vehicle. Give them a second."
Deputies order him to stay right there and spread his feet apart. They confirm there are no outstanding suspects and no other vehicle involved. One of the deputies radios in saying, "All clear." The driver starts to panic, saying, "You worried about the wrong thing and I am going to go to jail. What can I do?" He mumbles about Homestead and says, "Damn, I rigged my check, bro." Officers continue the search and ask what else is in the car. He insists, "I do not have nothing in my car. I was just trying to get home." Dispatch asks if it is okay to release, but the deputies keep him detained. The driver repeats, "I do not have nothing in my car, bro. I was just trying to get home." Then the call comes back, "Charles 30, no more records." He reacts nervously, saying, "I am record," while deputies say, "Let us go." The moment they tell him he cannot call anybody, he bursts out with frustration and fear and is escorted into the patrol car. He groans, saying, "Oh man," as the reality sinks in. Deputies begin processing him and ask for his last name. He replies Mundane and spells it Mondane, then gives his first name Albert. The officers confirm identification and continue clearing the scene. Dispatch once again asks if there's anyone outstanding or if it is just that one. Deputies answer, "Clearing the car right now," and tell another officer to stand on this side, stay on this side. After 10 seconds of silence, one deputy says, "That is clear, continue to hold." Finally, another call confirms, "All right, we are good."
Deputies confirm again over the radio. CH2, no outstanding vehicle, clear. And another voice follows, "Clear, no outstanding vehicle, clear." The radio goes quiet for a moment before someone says, "All right, we're clear." The injured silence breaks as one deputy mutters, "Homestead," under his breath, replaying everything that just happened. Another officer recounts, "He passed the red light, he took off on me." Dispatch asks, "Charles 32, is it okay to release channel 32? And the reply comes back, "Affirmative, you can release it, resume normal traffic." In the background, the driver is still being processed as deputies ask, "What is your last name? Spell it," while other officers discuss the chase. One deputy admits, "More than likely, I knew I was going to lose him. He crashed. And luckily he crashed out because if not, I was for sure going to lose him. Well, I lost him, only reason I saw the smoke and I was like, oh, that is a crash site." Another deputy says, "You need to tell me that you are coming this way," and gets the reply, "I told you turn around southbound." They pinpoint the location and someone calls out, 657, oh, right here, baby." Officers explain that they were over there going southbound because they thought the suspect went that direction. Another deputy says, "No, I was behind y'all and the chase started when y'all went northbound." He explains that as soon as they turned northbound, he heard the car peel off from the store they always mention. He heard the engine scream and instantly turned around and took the U-turn. The suspect started speeding and the officer says, "All right, well, let me go." The light was red.
Deputies radio in Charles 13 on my records while the officer describes how the light turned red and the suspect blew straight through it. He says he thought he could catch up, but as soon as he got close, the car was already burning off, so he turned on his lights and the driver pressed harder on the gas. Another deputy explains he didn't see when his partner broke off because they were talking on the radio at the time. Officers confirm they already ran the suspect's information, and multiple deputies continue running him through the system. Deputies claim the rapper was driving at least 130 miles per hour, but Sauce Walker insists he was not going that fast. They ask if he has been arrested before, and he casually answers, "For all types of stuff." Deputies then ask why he would do something like this. Sauce says he should have stopped, but he was really trying to get home to his daughter because he just came back from out of town. Deputies tell him that is not going to happen tonight. Sauce accepts it and says it is all good. Officers ask if he really thought he was going to get away, and he answers, "I mean, I would have." Deputies reply, "You would have if you did not crash." Sauce agrees and says, "Yeah, I crashed, bro." They point out that he came around the corner too fast, and he agrees again, saying, "Yeah, I came around the corner too fast." Deputies ask if the bumps hurt him in the crash, and he says a little bit, and that he just wants to call his dad to tell him he hurt himself. Deputies tell him he will be able to call once he gets to JPC. Sauce asks if they can just take him already, but deputies say EMS has to check him out first, and the supervisor has to come, and they must run more information to make sure everything is good. Sauce says the car flipped over and he was bumped around inside. Deputies ask if he had the seatbelt on, and he says no. One officer calls for EMS and is told they are already en route along with Houston units and HPD. Another deputy asks if the ID they recovered is his driver's license or only his name, and gets confirmation it is only his name. Officers ask if he's been arrested in Harris County before, and he answers, of course. The suspect states his name is Albert W. and says, "I am Sauce Walker Mundane." Deputies react with a quiet damn as the scene settles. Deputies ask again, "What is your last name?" And he answers Mundane, spelling it M-O-N-D-A-N-E. An officer repeats the spelling and reacts with a quiet damn. Another deputy confirms, "You say you are Sauce Walker?" And the driver replies, "Yes." They ask the rapper, and he says yes again. One deputy reacts, "Come on, man," in disbelief. Sauce repeats, "What?" And the officer tells him he jams to his music. Sauce says, "I know I should have just stopped, but I am taking you too, man." The officer replies, "Come on, man, you are an idol to a lot of people, and you out here doing that stupid stuff." Sauce argues why you had to pull me over, you know? And deputies ask, "What you mean, why?" They ask, "Why are you asking what I did?" And Sauce says, "All I did was drive off. You just heard a little noise. I was not even going fast." He continues that he does not understand why he was pulled over. All he did was pull that, and questions why the deputy took the engine, why he took off. The deputy answers, "No, you took off." Sauce insists, "Talking about when I pulled out the parking lot," and they correct him, saying, "No, I'm talking about when I pulled my lights on." Sauce admits it, saying, I did. I'm not saying I did not do that, but I was like, damn, why you pulling me over, bro? I should have just stopped, bro." He complains that he only has one traffic ticket and thinks the officer is the type to take people to jail for traffic violations. The deputy asks, "Do you see my patch?" and explains he does not take people in for traffic warrants. Sauce says the last officer acted like he wanted to take him to jail for traffic tickets. He reacts again with, "Damn," then, "Oh my God," as the situation sinks in. Deputies say EMS is en route, and he has to wait until he goes to jail. Sauce asks to speak and says, "Excuse me, sir, what about my money?" Deputies ask, "What about your what?" And he says, my money, you got my money." Deputies tell him it will go with him and will be processed with him.
Deputies work to flip the crashed car back over, while Sauce stands nearby, replaying everything in his mind with clear regret. He whispers, "Oh my God," as the weight of the night finally hits him. Officers radio updates and request guidance from dispatch, while Sauce keeps asking if his belongings will go back in his car. Deputies ask if HPD is still needed or only EMS and fire department, and they confirm just EMS. They ask if he is hurt anywhere, and he says his shoulder hurts a little bit. Deputies ask which shoulder, and Sauce immediately asks again if his things can be put back in the car. Officers tell him they are not taking all of that to jail with him, but yes, his belongings will be put back in the car. Sauce asks them to tell his dad to come because he wants his father to know his son is hurt. Deputies ask if he needs to go to the hospital and if he needs EMS. Sauce says he might have a slight concussion and he probably does need to go to the hospital because he really wrecked. Deputies challenge him by asking what he is worried about. Right now, the car or himself. Sauce answers himself, but admits that his adrenaline is rushing and he is thinking about letting his people know that he is okay. He holds his neck and shoulder and says they hurt, but his adrenaline is pumping and he is overwhelmed by the thought that he needs to at least let his people know he is alive. He mutters, "Bro," then, "Oh my God," again. Deputies ask if he remembers what happened, and he says, "Yeah, barely. I hit the damn curb."
Deputies ask if he hit his head, and Sauce says, "Yeah, I hit my head. My seatbelt came off because the impact hit so hard, it popped me out of the seatbelt and I hit my head on the roof. The roof you've seen the car flip over, damn." He groans Jesus and worries that officers are going to leave his stuff in the street. He tells the officer he knows he did wrong and accepts it and that he is not trying to use his fame, even though the officer knows who he is. Deputies reassure him they are not leaving his belongings in the road and they will pick everything up, but the priority is putting his essential items first before worrying about anything else. Sauce says he probably does need to go to the hospital because he is acting like he is fine, but he is not. Deputies say that is fine. If he needs EMS, then they will transport him. Sauce repeats he needs to go to the hospital because he just had a whole wreck, a bad wreck, not a regular crash, but a bad wreck. He says, "Jesus, bro," again, and asks about his ID and belongings. Deputies tell him his ID is in the car and it will stay there until they organize everything. He reassures himself, saying they are not going to steal his stuff in there. Then he whispers, "Damn," and says his dog told him to stay in the house too, dog. He repeats, "Damn, I should have stopped." An officer confirms he is going to get transported because he wants to go to the hospital. Deputies tell him to sit back because the ambulance is on the way and it is just going to be a bit. They tell him, "Take a seat, Mr. Walker," while another officer says he will get his ID and stuff right now.
Deputies continue gathering information while Sauce sits injured near the patrol car. Officers confirm radio traffic, asking if the feed went all the way in and report that units are coming southbound. They identify paperwork and property belonging to the suspect and discuss his name. One officer jokes that he will give $20 if someone can guess who the suspect is. Another officer guesses wrong and says 400 or red before the deputy finally reveals Sauce Walker. Someone repeats Sauce Walker and then Walker and says they call him Sauce Walker. Deputies discuss generating the police report and confirm that they will use the sheriff's department's report number instead of the city system. They talk amongst themselves and say the only reason this chase ended quickly is because he crashed out because he was burned off and already too fast to catch. One deputy explains how he turned northbound and heard a screeching sound and assumed the suspect was about to do something dumb. As soon as he turned around, he saw the first red light at Winfield and then another a few blocks down. The suspect blew through the first red light, and that is when the deputy started speeding up. He says he thinks the driver saw him and started flooring it, so he turned on his lights and sirens, and the suspect gassed the car even harder. They recap that Sauce Walker was going around 120, and the deputy says he was going 121, but the suspect was going well over that. The only reason the deputy noticed the crash was because right before he hit the curb, there was already smoke coming out a lot.
Deputies explained that as soon as they got closer to the scene, they saw a tire rolling across the road, and that is when they called the crash out. They describe how the car jumped from one side of the street to the other during the flip, and one deputy says he could have killed himself. Another officer replies that Sauce was easily hitting 150 to 160 miles per hour. Deputies mention that he might get transported and confirm that EMS has been called because Sauce requested hospital transport. Officers continue securing evidence and counting belongings and mention depositing his property. They discuss whether he needs to stay in cuffs and confirm that he does, and ask where the sergeant is. Deputies confirm no drugs were found and state custody right at JPC. They note 193 and talk about his possessions possibly being investments or whatever. Sauce Walker was eventually taken into custody and later released on a $40,000 bond. In a since-deleted Instagram post, Sauce wrote that he was trying to calm down because he had been living a wild life for a long time, and he was trying to be a role model for so many people.
While the case continued pending, Sauce Walker was ordered not to drive. 15 months after the crash, he was shot in downtown Memphis. The rapper suffered a gunshot wound to the thigh, but a 27-year-old man was killed during the shooting. Officials announced an arrest warrant for 21-year-old Jaden Dandridge and 22-year-old Kevin Brown, both charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. But in a shocking update, one of the alleged killers was murdered. Investigators found the body of Jaden Dandridge in a Houston shopping mall loading dock and confirmed the suspect died from multiple gunshot wounds. Sauce Walker's high-speed chase case would not resolve in the courts until this year. Last month, the Texas rapper pleaded guilty to evading arrest. He was sentenced to probation with 2 years of supervision, so the rapper avoided jail time. Under the plea agreement, if Sauce Walker violates the terms of his probation, he's looking at anywhere between 2 to 10 years in prison. He must also complete 50 hours of community service and send a $500 payment to the Houston Area Women's Center.